The most dangerous loyalty is to who you used to be. In a world that worships authenticity, we forget the price of staying the same. Every motivational post tells you to be yourself, to stay loyal to who you were, as if growth were betrayal and change a form of self-betrayal. But what if the very thing holding you back isn't the system, the people, or even the obstacles, but the outdated version of yourself you refuse to let go of? The truth is harsh. You can't rise while holding onto your old self. The habits, the beliefs, the roles you once played, they might have served you once. They might have helped you survive, helped you belong. But now, they're anchors, and loyalty to your past can cost you your future. Comfort is the language of those who never leave the shoreline. Power is spoken by those who sail into storms, who burn the map of who they used to be and redraw a new one with their own blood. This isn't about being fake. It's about being fluid, strategic, alive. To become someone new, you must betray the person you were. Not because the old you is weak, but because they've served their time. They've reached their ceiling. And you just found the staircase. Betrayal, then, isn't failure. It's rebirth. And the most powerful people in history understood this. That becoming great requires walking away from the version of you that everyone else still recognizes, and doing it without apology. A wise man adapts himself to circumstances as water shapes itself to the vessel. These words from Niccolò Machiavelli cut deeper than most motivational slogans. They don't promise comfort. They demand transformation. And in that demand lies the truth most people avoid. Power is not preserved by consistency. It is earned through evolution. Machiavelli understood that a prince who clings to old habits will be swallowed by new realities. He wrote not for the moralist, but for the realist. For the one who sees that the game is always changing, and that those who fail to adapt are not just forgotten, they're destroyed. To betray your former self, then, is not a sin, it is survival. It is the highest form of strategy. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, shared a different but parallel truth, detached from ego. His writings whisper that you're not your thoughts, your past, or your pride. You are something fluid, something that must be sculpted again and again. Even Stoicism, often seen as rigidity, reveals the same core. Rebirth is strength. Clinging to a past version of yourself out of fear or sentiment is weakness in disguise. History's most dangerous minds all betrayed who they once were. Napoleon rose from an obscure Corsican soldier to the architect of empires, not by staying the same, but by erasing the man people thought they knew. Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon because he had outgrown the senator they tried to contain. Steve Jobs, fired from the company he created, returned not as the same man, but as something sharper, colder, more calculated. He didn't reclaim power by being the old Steve. He won by killing that man and replacing him. This is the Machiavellian rule few have the courage to follow. You are not required to honor the ghost of who you were. You are required to become who the world now demands. Anything less isn't loyalty, it's slow death. Loyalty to your past self feels noble. It feels comfortable, but over time, it becomes a cage. The longer you cling to who you were, the more you delay who you could become. And in that space between potential and reality, something dangerous grows: stagnation. Look around. You'll see it everywhere. The manager who still thinks like an entry-level employee, always seeking permission, never taking authority. They were once praised for being humble and cooperative, but now they struggle to command a room. Their old mindset doesn't serve them anymore, but they hold on, hoping their past effort will carry them forward. It doesn't. Then there's the creator, the artist, the entrepreneur, the innovator, who refuses to evolve. They built a brand once that got attention, but times changed, tastes shifted, the audience moved on. Still, they insist on repeating what used to work, trapped in nostalgia. They call it staying true. The world calls it irrelevant. And what about the person whose identity is still tied to an old circle of friends or a toxic environment? They know they've outgrown it, but they stay. Why? Because they fear being seen as disloyal, arrogant, or too good. So they shrink to remain familiar. Their growth becomes a source of guilt. Their ambition, a threat to those around them. This kind of emotional loyalty comes at a steep cost. Guilt for outgrowing your old tribe. Insecurity from feeling like an imposter in your next role. Addiction to approval from people who only love the version of you that doesn't threaten them. But here's the hard truth. No one will give you permission to evolve. They will remember you as who you were, not because they respect that version, but because it makes them feel safe. And the longer you play along, the more power you surrender. Staying loyal to the old self isn't virtuous. It's self-betrayal in disguise. You can't build the future while protecting the past. One of them has to go. If you want to rise, you must commit 3 betrayals. Not against others, but against the outdated parts of yourself. Power isn't given to those who cling to who they were. It's earned by those who are willing to break their own mold. 1. Betrayal of old beliefs. The first betrayal is mental. You have to let go of the beliefs that made you feel safe, but now make you small. These beliefs are comfortable lies we tell ourselves because they once worked. But survival beliefs rarely scale into power. Take the classic saying, hard work always pays off. It sounds noble, and for many, it's the foundation of their self-worth. But in today's world, it's incomplete at best and dangerous at worst. If hard work alone created empires, then the laborers of the world would be kings. But they're not, because power doesn't reward effort, it rewards leverage. Leverage means systems, scale, positioning. One person who understands how to multiply effort through teams, capital, technology, or timing will always outpace the one working hardest. So if you're still operating under the old belief that grinding is enough, you're stuck in a system that will never let you win. To rise, you must betray these comfort code beliefs. You must question everything you were taught about loyalty, humility, fairness. You don't need to discard values, but you must evolve them. Belief systems aren't meant to be eternal. They're meant to expire when they've served their purpose. 2. Betrayal of familiar roles. The second betrayal is social. People will remember you as who you were, and they will cling to that memory, not out of love, but out of fear, because your evolution threatens their certainty. You were the loyal friend, the supportive employee, the yes person. You were dependable, predictable, familiar, and those around you built expectations around that version of you. But the moment you step into power, into leadership, into your own gravity, you break that role. You stop explaining your moves. You start saying no more than yes. You make decisions that benefit your vision, not their comfort. And they'll say you've changed. Of course you have. That was the point. This is the betrayal that costs you invitations, friendships, even admiration. But power is lonely for a reason. You don't get to keep everyone, especially not the ones who only liked you when you were small. Imagine someone going from team player to solo leader. At first, they were loved for being supportive. But as they start setting boundaries, taking credit, and commanding space, they're met with resistance, jealousy, silence. That's the price of shedding your assigned role. You're not who they remember, and that's exactly why you're finally becoming who you were meant to be. 3. Betrayal of past emotions. The final betrayal is emotional, and it's the hardest. You have to walk away from sentimental attachments that no longer serve your mission. This doesn't mean becoming cold. It means becoming clear. Nostalgia is a trap. Guilt is a leash, and both are used by others, sometimes unknowingly, to keep you from outgrowing them. You'll feel it when you outpace a friend but don't want to leave them behind. You'll feel it when a family member tells you, "Don't forget where you came from," as if your growth is a form of betrayal. You'll feel it when you must choose between the comfort of the familiar and the discomfort of progress. Take the entrepreneur who must shut down the business they started with their childhood friend. The project no longer works. The partner no longer pulls weight. But memories keep them tied to a dying idea. Until one day, they decide, I didn't come this far to stay loyal to a sinking ship. That moment of painful clarity is the beginning of power. This is what snakes understand. They shed their skin when it no longer fits. There's no ceremony, no mourning, just quiet release and growth. Betraying your past emotions doesn't make you heartless. It makes you precise, strategic, alive. You carry the lesson, not the weight. You honor the memory, but you don't live in it. Because sentiment is sacred, but it should never be a substitute for momentum. These 3 betrayals, of belief, of role, of emotion, are not easy, but they are necessary. You cannot rise and stay the same. You cannot win and be widely liked. You cannot lead and remain familiar. The old you is good, But the new you must be ruthless, because the throne doesn't go to the one who hesitates. It goes to the one who sheds. Betraying your old self doesn't just feel uncomfortable, it feels like dying. Because, in a way, it is. The ego clings to continuity. It wants to be seen as consistent, familiar, easy to define. It builds identity like a fortress. Every belief, role, and habit reinforcing the illusion that you're the same person yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So when you start to change, truly change, it feels like everything inside you starts to fall apart. That's not weakness. That's transformation. But what feels like death is often the beginning of power. There's a name for this: strategic discontinuity. It's when you intentionally disrupt the story people tell about you on your terms. You stop being predictable. You stop being safe. And suddenly, people don't know how to place you anymore. That confusion, that pause, that silence when they try to understand you, that's power. Because when people can't predict you, they respect you. Or, at the very least, they fear losing control over you. Think of the person who was always soft-spoken, suddenly commanding a room without explanation. Or the friend who always followed the group, now setting boundaries with razor-sharp clarity. Or the employee who was always the helper, now walking into a meeting like a decision-maker. The shift is quiet, but the impact is seismic. People are forced to recalibrate. And in that recalibration, you create distance. That distance creates mystique. And mystique is the birthplace of authority. Power doesn't come from being understood. It comes from being felt. And when people feel they no longer know you, they stop trying to control you. They watch their words. They second-guess their assumptions. They approach with caution. Not because you're cruel, but because you're no longer readable. And unreadable is untouchable. The fear respect you earn isn't from being mean. It's from being reborn. The version of you they thought they knew is gone. What's replaced it is sharper, quieter, more dangerous. Not because you said so, but because your presence now demands it. Strategic discontinuity is not chaos. It's clarity. You're not becoming someone else. You're becoming someone undeniable. Be true to yourself. It sounds noble, safe, empowering, but dig a little deeper, and you'll find it's one of the most dangerous mantras of modern culture. Because more often than not, what people really mean is, don't change. Stay how we remember you. Don't threaten the version of you we're comfortable with. Authenticity, as sold today, is a trap dressed as virtue. It tells you that who you were at 20 should be who you are at 40. That your first instincts, your old beliefs, your teenage identity should never be questioned. It seduces you into thinking that change is fake and evolution is betrayal. And so, you stay loyal to your past and call it integrity. But power doesn't reward consistency. Power rewards reinvention. Social media, our digital stage, loves predictability. The algorithm favors the familiar. The audience loves characters who don't evolve. But in the real world, predictability makes you easy to manage, easy to overlook, easy to defeat. If they can map your next move, they can block you before you even begin. The most powerful people in history were not consistent. They were adaptive. Churchill began as a soldier, became a journalist, then transformed into the wartime bulldog Britain needed. Bezos started by selling books, then built a tech empire that redefined global commerce. Elon Musk went from coding zip files to launching rockets because he refused to stay in a single lane. They weren't being themselves. They were becoming something else over and over again, not out of dishonesty, but out of strategic necessity. True authenticity is not about clinging to who you were. It's about owning who you need to become next. If you mistake stagnation for integrity, you will spend your life being praised for your character by people who quietly outgrow you. The real danger isn't in losing yourself. It's in never allowing yourself to become anything greater. Betraying your old self isn't just a philosophical idea. It's a weapon, a tool, a daily practice. If you want to win in this world, you have to wield it with precision across every area of your life. Let's talk about how to do that. Not in theory, but in the raw, messy, real-time moments where power is either claimed or lost. In work, your job title is only part of your identity. The rest is how you carry yourself. If you wait until promotion to change your mindset, you're already too late. You need to outgrow the room before they offer you the next one. That means stop thinking like a junior. Stop seeking validation. Stop waiting to be picked. Start speaking with the authority of someone who's already there. Not arrogance, but vision. Anticipate what leaders care about and bring that energy before you're told to. Be the person who makes decisions, not the one waiting for them. People will resist it at first. They'll say, "You've changed." Smile and keep going. That's the point. In negotiation, the version of you that once feared confrontation, leave them outside. Every time you walk into a negotiation, whether it's for salary, a deal, or your time, you bring either fear or presence. And people can smell both. Don't negotiate from your history. Negotiate from your leverage. Don't beg, frame. Don't overshare, imply. Make silence your ally. Let them wonder how much power you really hold. And if the deal isn't right, walk away. But don't just leave. Exit like you have better wars to fight. Because the moment they believe you don't need them, the terms begin to bend. In relationships, this is where betrayal feels most personal. But it's also where it's most necessary. The version of you that never said no, that always made space, always made excuses, always played small so others wouldn't feel threatened, that version needs to die. Strategic betrayal in relationships means setting new boundaries without explaining them. It means no longer attending the emotional circus just because you used to be the clown. It means being feared a little and respected a lot. Let them say you're cold. Let them say you've changed. Growth should make the wrong people uncomfortable. If it doesn't, it's not real growth. In leadership, great leaders don't just inspire, they disorient. They don't give people a steady rhythm to follow. They change pace. They use silence as a signal, absence as pressure, unpredictability as dominance. Strategic leaders never explain everything, because when you always explain, people feel equal. But when you leave space for interpretation, you create mystique. And mystique creates power. Surprise them, confuse them, force them to recalibrate how they see you again and again. Because the leader who becomes a pattern is a leader who gets ignored. But the one who evolves in plain sight, without warning, becomes a legend. Strategic betrayal isn't cruelty. It's clarity. It's the conscious decision to stop protecting a version of yourself that no longer serves you. And when you apply it to your work, your negotiations, your relationships, and your leadership, you stop being just another face in the room. You become a force they have to account for, a variable they can't predict, a presence they can't quite decode. And that's when power stops being something you chase and starts being something you embody. They'll say you changed, that's the point. Sooner or later, they'll say it. You've changed, and they won't mean it as a compliment. They'll whisper that you're different, that you're cold now, that you're not as approachable, not as agreeable, not as easy to understand. Some will say you sold out. Others will say you've become fake. Let them talk. You didn't come here to be the favorite version of your past self. You came to become something they wouldn't recognize. Because the truth is, you can't win by being liked by the old you or the people who like that version best. There's irony in power. The moment you evolve, people accuse you of becoming less real, as if staying stagnant is the highest form of honesty. But growth is not dishonesty. It's necessity. And silence is the perfect answer to those who demand explanations you no longer owe them. So when they say, "You're not the same," you won't argue. You'll say nothing and win. Picture a snake shedding its skin. It doesn't mourn what it leaves behind. It doesn't explain to the forest why it looks different now. It simply outgrows. Quietly. Completely. That's the rule of power. In a world of loud voices and copy-paste personalities, those who dare to betray themselves again and again become originals. And the original always eclipses the imitation, not by force, but by becoming undeniably more.